All right. Welcome back to the world famous Tipitinas. Thank you so much to Tipitinas for letting us use the space. Thank you to Nugs.net for letting us use your equipment. And I hope you're enjoying this on Tipitinas.tv. If you would like to be a part of the All Right broadcast, send us a letter, an actual letter sent by the United States Post Office to the All Right broadcast, care of Tipitina's Music Venue at 501 Napoleon Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70115. If you send me an actual letter, I will send you an actual letter back with a sticker inside of it. So we're going to save the post office one letter at a time. No more wasting time. Let's go ahead and get to the guest, someone I'm very excited to talk to. This is someone that I'm sure everyone in New Orleans has definitely seen or definitely heard the name before. The New Orleans Queen of Burlesque, Trixie Minx of Trixie Minx Productions. You might know her from shows including Fleur de Tease, Burgundy Burlesque, Burlesque Ballroom, Bourbon Boylesque, the fantasy for couples cruises, plus a roster of fire breathers and aerialist acrobats, magicians, gypsies, carnies, and other freaks and weirdos just to deliver a good time to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Trixie Minx.
Hello, yay!
All right, settle down, people, settle down. Thank you, Ace, for making a clap. Trixie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I am so excited to talk to a person. This is amazing.
Well, I know you've been doing a lot of talking to screens and stuff the past
Yes.
year. I've seen some of your videos. Specifically, I know a year ago, I remember seeing this, The Tub Time with Trixie.
Oh yes, I love that show. I actually, so just like jumping into it, that's something I've always wanted to do and just didn't have the time. And I have this really big bathtub. I was like, this would be perfect for hosting a show. And anyways, I just decided to give it a go, and I was doing it, but I couldn't, I don't know why I fell out of it. I guess just the water would get cold. That was like the really biggest challenge on that show.
Yeah. The water being cold? Is
Yeah, because if you stay in the tub too long, it just gets to be chilled, and it's not very fun to host
it'd
from a
be
cold
weird
tub.
to be like, hang on, turn the water on to heat it up, I guess, in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was, and we had technical difficulties because I couldn't actually have guests over, so I would put a sort of computer dangerously close to the tub,
Yeah,
and
didn't
like
want it to fall in the tub.
Yeah, it was always sort of like, it was a very exciting show to say the least.
Yeah, no one wants to electrocute themselves on Facebook Live.
No, and well, so that was the thing is I would do the show on Facebook Live. It was so awesome because then it felt, it's the closest thing I've done this entire pandemic that feels like an actual like show because the audience is there in real time.
Yeah.
But then I would try and edit it down from 20 minutes of ridiculousness to something more concise, and that's where I sort of got delayed.
All right. Well, let's go back actually to your beginning of performance. I know that you were a ballet dancer long before you ever dove into burlesque, and you started dancing real young, like 2 years old. Is that right?
Yes, but I feel like that's sort of that was more creative movement. I think it's even musicians when they get excited about or like they first get into it singing in a church group or something like that. It's not necessarily super professional, but I was running around in a dance studio.
Little tutu, just pretending like you can do the
Not
things.
a little tutu. I'm not pretending. I was taking very serious creative movement classes at 2.
At 2, really? What kind of things, like don't pull your diaper off type of stuff?
Oh no, you had to be potty trained to do it.
Okay.
Obviously, it was
right.
very exclusive school. I was gonna say no. It was like simple things like freeze dance, like learning, how to jump on one leg, skipping. Like it sounds so silly now to talk about it, but it's basic motor skills development with regards to like movement. So, yeah, it was nice.
Well, so when you were a little girl, did you want to be? I mean, I know every little girl probably wants to be a ballerina at some point in time. Like, is that just something you never grew out of?
Yeah, I really think I have a very vivid memory of like watching this show on PBS and it had all these ballerinas and I just was mesmerized. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do 100%. And I think it really solidified when I hit sort of like my preteen years. That's when it was like, oh, this is it.
Okay. All right. Well, I know, mentioning your teenage years at the very least, you're from Miami, born and raised in Miami. And if I checked into this correctly, you attended Miami Palmetto High School, and that's the same high school as a couple of notable people. One specifically, Jeff Bezos. Did you know that?
No way. Actually, I think I did know that. So I feel like I have to backtrack a little bit. So I graduated from Miami Palmetto senior, but I actually did most of my high school at New World School of the Arts. And then my senior year, I transferred my senior year, which that's like I was definitely a party animal, as you can tell.
There weren't people partying at the New World School of Performing Arts in Miami?
I don't know. I was like super nerdy and geeky. So I was like spending all my time either in the studio or going to another dance school after I was at that conservatory. So it was like, I was crazy. But senior year, I got offered a chance to actually work with Miami City Ballet in the school.
Okay.
So I did a work study program. So I only was in school like up until 11 a.m., I think, every day. And then I would take a bus down to Miami Beach.
Wow.
And then I'd do my homework real quick, and then I would start teaching little kids and working with outreach programs.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was into it.
All right. Well, sorry, I just, random things. Any other notable people that you know of that went to New World School of Performing Arts?
There's a lot, of course. Now that you ask me, my mind is completely blank. No, it's a great school. It's a high school and a college, so it does most of the classical arts. So you have a music program, you have a drama, you have a musical theater program, visual art and dance. But yeah, I'm sure there's tons of people that have gone on to amazing things. I just can't recall anything.
Okay, yeah, just wondering. I mean, I checked the Wikipedia page. Aside from you, obviously the most notable person who went to the New World School of Performing Arts. The only person I saw was Glenn Howerton, the guy who was on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We'll cut that part out. It's not that important. But I do know that from Miami, you went to Nashville and were working with the Nashville Ballet. What do they call it?
Yeah,
Nashville Ballet?
I was a trainee with the Nashville Ballet. I loved it. It was everything I wanted. I was dancing, all the time, and unfortunately, it was not meant to be for me. So that's sort of a bummer because my body, like, this is me naturally. But like for ballet, at least at that time, I needed to constantly be like thinner, and it's one of these things that like it makes sense in the context of the work if you're trying to show lines and they hire you at a certain weight and all this other stuff, but I just couldn't maintain the work level I needed to maintain and the weight level I needed to maintain.
Well, it's a strange thing. I never totally understood.
Do any musicians talk about this?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, they're all worried about their weight. No, but as far as performing and doing dance, like, I don't know where I'm really going to go with this line of questioning, but like, seems crazy. So I mean, obviously, look at the two of us. We're very different body types.
You say that, just like, but I don't know. Let's get you in a costume and corset you up and see what happens.
I had the knee surgery. I have plenty of excuses on why I won't do that.
Oh.
For a guy my size, I am fairly, swift on my feet, believe it or not. Most people would not. Not much of a dancer, definitely not ballet. But, the weight thing, I think it's strange that, like, people start this while they're young, before they hit puberty. Then they hit puberty and their body type changes entirely, but they're still expected to remain, like, in a crazy, I don't know, the petite form, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But why is that accepted, all those things?
Well, I think a lot of it comes, like, I think there's things that are changing now, and, like, this is no slight on the company I was working with. I think it's just, like, now we're all doing a lot better, I think, in general, at just sort of recognizing what is healthy, what's not healthy, what's appropriate, what's not, specifically with regards to bodies and people, like children, essentially, that are turning into adults and how to behave appropriately. But I was going to say, for me, I think the reason it sort of is, I think the reason why this thin sort of concept is because ballet originally, like, this is a lot to sort of bring into one question. I'm sorry, all over the place.
No, it's okay.
But basically, if you look back at like old pictures in Russia and France, they weren't stick thin dancers. They were thin, but they weren't stick thin. However, in the 60s with Balanchine was a choreographer and the artistic director of New York City Ballet, and he really defined American ballet. Okay. And in the 60s, what he wanted really long, thin dancers, short torsos, long legs, and he loved tall girls, like and men too. And he sort of defined what I think a lot of American ballet aesthetic is. But his ballets are amazing. They're really clever. They do a lot of stuff with musicality. And so that the reason why he wanted everybody so thin is so you could really see the lines and like see the shapes and stuff. but I think it's sort of got taken to an extreme in this sort of quest for perfection.
Yeah, I think that's mostly what I'm hitting at is, it's not, how can you expect people to maintain like this without ultimately doing damage on their lives, their physicality? Like people, I'm not trying to, go too crazy a tangent. Like I've had friends that have had eating disorders before because they were in some, dance and performance and things like that. And it was like, why are you doing this to yourself?
Well, to actually spin it back into what's going on now, that's where I really sort of fell in love with burlesque. Is because burlesque is a lot of people. It is the art of tease. There is this element of performance, comedy, seduction, whatever you want to. However you want to twist it, but the reality of it is it's celebrating the human form.
Yeah.
So that's really amazing. Like when you take off a glove and people are literally screaming and clapping for you, it's a huge rush. And so I do think in that aspect, it has a lot of body positive elements to it.
Well, let's start talking about burlesque for sure.
I can go on about ballet for years, but
No,
I think
that's
the people
okay,
watching
that's
are
okay.
gonna be like,
Well,
nah.
it's important to talk about for sure. At least we're talking about you. You're the subject, not
me.
just burlesque or not just ballet. From what I read, at the very least,
Okay.
you were not necessarily fond of burlesque.
No.
You were very much like, that's not for me. I don't, oh, that's nice, that's fun, that's cute, I enjoy it, it's funny. I don't think I would ever do that.
That was my exact, like, you hit the nail on the head. And where are you getting your resource material?
The internet. Like,
The internet knows me better than I know me. I'm a little scared.
I got a whole page of stuff. I
Oh
mean, I
my
shrunk it down
gosh.
to one page, and I
Okay.
even wrote in some extra notes.
I
but,
appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, no, the internet did not lie to you on that. When I had basically, I've got out of ballet because I injured my ankle,
Mm-hmm.
and for anybody else, it's just a normal like broken ankle, no big deal. But for me, it was having to just like totally the control and strength of
It's your
going up
livelihood,
on. Yeah,
you know?
it was a big deal. So, and then also I had my own eating disorder, so like I needed to address that and deal with that. And so when I was on my way to be like, I think ballet is done, I found burlesque, and it more like it found me. I kept running into these people that did burlesque in New Orleans that were like, oh, you have to try it, you would love it. And I kept being like, I saw a show and I was like, absolutely not. Like, no. I did not spend the past like umpteen years of my life, doing splits and stretches and working my tuchus off. So
just to put tassels on, right?
Yeah, like to me, it was ridiculous. I was like, this is how I've always felt. Like burlesque is comedy, and that's the root of the word burlesque comes from the Latin burla, which means to joke. So like there is this strong element of comedy that I like to embrace. But like when I was watching it, I was like, this is absolutely ludicrous. Like there's a woman on stage. I remember one act. It was at this art gallery, and there was this girl it was the flight of the bumblebees, like,
Yeah.
and she was in this bumblebee costume and just running, like just taking off her clothes as fast as possible. I'm running, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not against it, but this isn't what I'm vibing. And now it's what I'm completely vibing on. It's ridiculous how things change with time.
Oh, it's not so ridiculous. So I do know that when you had broken your ankle, you were a Pilates instructor when you
Yes.
came here, right?
Yes.
Was that before you came here?
No, so I actually
Yeah, what brought you here to New Orleans?
I came down to
specifically?
see Jazz Fest for one weekend.
Okay, that's fair.
And then I had some friends down here, so I came down to see Jazz Fest for a weekend, and they said, oh, well, you're already here. Why don't you come see the next weekend? I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And then afterwards, I had my foot in a cast, so there really wasn't any reason for me to go back right away. And I was like, well, like if you got nothing else to do, why don't you stay here for like a week? And I was like, okay. And then like it turned into a month, and I had only brought a backpack with like stuff for a long weekend.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should probably get my stuff. And
Well,
it was
20 years later, here you are. 20th
know.
anniversary this
I
week,
love
I
it.
guess, right?
actually, you're right. That's crazy to
Happy
think about
anniversary.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you. This is
happy-
my 20-year New Orleans anniversary.
Very well, or very nice, very nice. So, I mean, you were still in the cast when you had moved down here, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Well, I thought I was going to be down here just as like a waiting transitional. Like I really thought I was just going to be down here until I could get my foot healed, and then I was going to go to New York and start auditioning in New York. And I honestly believe it was September 11th that happened when I was like, oh, I need to have a change of plans, and I just sort of not even froze, but just like was like, I don't know what else to do. My whole plan was to go to New York and really get into the dancing there. But since that didn't happen, I was like, well, I guess I'll stay here. And I went back to school, and that's where I started training to become a Pilates instructor. I started my school here and then eventually did go to New York. And it was, I had this magic moment. I feel like everybody in New Orleans, whether you're from here or like a transplant, has this moment where it's like a light switch where it's like, oh, New Orleans is home. But I was at it was the A&P at the time on Magazine in Louisiana.
Yeah, I know where it is.
I was living uptown. And I just wanted to buy a soda or something. I was just buying something really small, and I had to get out of there because I was going to like a physical therapy appointment. I was like, I just need to get and go. And the lady in front of me stops after she pays for her stuff and asks the cashier, like, how are you doing? How's your day going? And I was furious. I was like, oh my God, I got places to go. I got important things to do. And all of a sudden, it just, as soon as I thought that, there was this immediate, like, opposite reaction to be like, no, she has the right idea. You are thinking wrong. Like, this is not the right way to live. This is ridiculous. This woman doesn't know this cashier, and she is just being a decent human being. And it sort of made me stop. And I truly, like, that was the moment I really started to, like, look around New Orleans. It was like, oh my gosh, this isn't just a city. This is the
Community?
it's a community. It's the most magical place on earth. It's like, I truly think it's the last fully thriving bohemia, like, in my opinion, like
In America.
in America at least. Yeah. Like, it's just the fact that you can have immense wealth next to really sad poverty, yet it all seems to be this cohesive unit that exists together with the sole purpose of existence and
a lot of shared
joy.
experiences.
And yeah, exactly. So I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely
I'm in love
right.
with New Orleans. What can I say?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would agree. I mean, I'm saying that everyone that lives here is probably in love with New Orleans.
I should hope
Otherwise,
so.
they don't last very long here.
There's too many termites and like floods and,
And
stuff.
fruit flies and whatever
Yeah,
else.
we're having a lot of those. I feel like
Yeah.
we should address it. To the audience at home, I bathed before this interview.
Yeah, like it's
Like, I use soap.
this has
everything.
happened a couple of times that like all of a sudden it's like everyone is pretending like they're not there, but there's fruit flies. And we do a good job mopping the floor. I think it might be that trash can has some skunky beer over there that might be helping a little bit.
Part of
as
the
well.
New Orleans charm.
Yeah, sure. They don't hurt. You mentioned you were a Pilates instructor.
Yes.
What other jobs have you had besides performer
Oh.
and instructor?
So I was a bartender.
Where at?
It's not there anymore, but it was 735. It's
I remember 735 on Bourbon Street.
Yes, I actually that was my first gig. My foot was still in the cast, and I was working the door as like an ID person. And they got booked with the Playboy party for Mardi Gras for like the whole Mardi
I've
Gras
been to
weekend.
one of those actually. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
maybe I saw you. This
It's
is
very possible.
like-
I don't remember a girl in the cast, but I remember.
Oh well, so at this point the cast had just come off.
Okay. All right.
And or no, it was way off. I was doing therapy. Like, this was like me just trying to get back into dance and stuff. And one of the girls that was supposed to bartend the party was pregnant, so she couldn't. She, like, all of a sudden when she found out, she was like, I can't be in a smoky room because people were still smoking inside at that point. And they were like, can you learn how to bartend in like a week? And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I started bartending there. I've worked as a server at Muriel's, actually.
Okay.
I did that when I was going through my Pilates certification. And one of the jobs that I am super proud of was I worked at the JCC doing preschool sports, athletics,
All right.
and ballet.
I'm a former member.
Oh.
I jacked up my knee there, and I'm no longer a member. But
Well, on behalf of the JCC, I am sorry. Yeah, no, it was pretty much all service industry or working with children. I really love kids. I do
Yeah.
a lot of work with, or again, prior to moving to New Orleans, I did a lot of teaching. You know, I just love kids. I think
Yeah.
they're cool.
Well, kids are all right. So let's talk about taking the leap into burlesque.
Okay.
I guess. More specifically, I know obviously you had a lot of friends that did it, and people said, "Oh, you'd be perfect
Yeah.
for it," and you said, "No, that's not for me." What was it specifically that made you want to take a chance?
It was Katrina,
Yeah.
actually. So I had 3 major people in my life that kept telling me, "Oh, you need to try it," and they were all coming from different aspects of my life. Like, one was a dancer, and she was a professional dancer that had similarly. She was in New York and got stuck down here after September 11th, and she was like, "Oh, you need to try this. Like, you'll love it." The other was a somebody that was a mutual friend that was in college, just a college student, who was like, oh, I love this. I think you would love it too. And the other was an opera singer that I had done a small dance role in the opera, which is where we met. And she was like, you need to try this. Like, this is so you. And I remember auditioning for a show. I got in, and they literally, like, when I got in, they handed me a pair of tassels, and they're like, okay, so you're gonna need to learn how to do this. Good luck. No information beyond like, here, like I didn't even know how to put them on. Like I was like, thanks, I guess. And in the back of my head, I kept saying like, oh, you don't have to do this. Like you can walk off stage. It doesn't matter. Like worst thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna like put them out a little bit for like, of course now in hindsight, I'm like, if anybody did that to me, I'd be like, oh my God, like it's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
But like at the time I just was like, I don't know. And then when Katrina hit, I evacuated after. I ended up in Nashville.
Okay.
But I went through because we stayed for the storm. It was me and a group of people, and we actually ended up, I don't want to say we stole, but we hijacked a friend's car who was out of town for a convention and basically then had to return the car and did this wild road trip through Mississippi all the way up to Atlantic City to return this car, picked up a car from my uncle that my cousin drove in high school in like DC on the way, and then like somehow made it back to Nashville, and it was bizarro. But when I did that, I literally left with a backpack full of pictures and journals, and the tassels just happened to be in there. And it was sort of like this like sign, like, oh, and
So this is before Katrina that you got the tassels.
yeah, but I had never performed until after Katrina. Like I literally had auditioned. I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. Which, true story, I was bleached blonde at the time, which is why Trixie is always blonde now.
Okay.
Because after Katrina, my hair was never the same again. I did not go to the same stylist. It was wrecked. But I remember being in this hotel in Mississippi for a little bit and being like, well, I got nothing else to do, and locking myself in the bathroom with these tassels.
Let's get these things going.
Trying to figure out how to get them. Like, it's like trying to learn how to drive stick if you don't know what you're doing, and just like trying different things and, YouTubing stuff. And again, like now I'm going to really like date myself, but like, I think MySpace was a thing, but Facebook definitely wasn't a thing. So it's like, there was YouTube, there was the internet, but it wasn't like as prevalent. It wasn't like, this is how to, like, so I was just doing my best to get my eyes on any information I could so I could learn something. But it was pretty much trial and error.
Wow. That is great. First performance of Burlesque. Tell me about that. I think you told me on the phone.
I did.
Yeah.
It was, I love this story. It was actually at Tipitina's in the Quarter. And so I don't know if people know this, but Tipitina's had a sort of sister venue.
Yeah, it was the same family. Tipitina's French Quarter was on South Peters, like a door down from Coyote Ugly.
Yes.
Between the Subway and the Coyote Ugly was Tipitina's French Quarter.
Very classy.
It was a nice room, actually. It was a three-story building. It had
I
like
don't
a
remember
ballroom upstairs. Like, well, yeah.
They never took us that far. We just had the second floor, first floor.
Yeah, it was always the first floor had the a stage, and it was like a 450, I think, capacity room. It was sizable.
It was a big room. It was a gorgeous room.
The stage actually was bigger than this stage, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, so this one's really deep. That one was really wide.
Yeah, that is true.
No, I remember I auditioned for a show. It was called Bust Out Burlesque, and I got in, and they're like, you're going to be the tassel twirler, and the costume had gotten destroyed in Katrina. They were supposed to, it was a professional run show, so they were supposed to supply the costume. So I had made my very first costume. Again, like, this is all not knowing, just sort of figuring it out on my own. And I remember we had a live band. We had done all these rehearsals, and there were people in the crowd, and I was shaking. I was so nervous. And I'm not, like, I love performing. I've never been, like, I've had, like, that nervous energy, but I've not been, like,
never
afraid.
had to peel your clothes off in front of a crowd, though.
I mean, not really a crowd, per se. Like, my dog is always a very enthusiastic audience member, but, No, I was going to say, it was just, like, I kept saying to myself, like, you can walk out. If you're not comfortable, you can leave at any time. If you're not comfortable, it's totally fine. And I remember the moment my foot hit the stage, and I felt the light, and it felt like a fish to water. I tell that to everybody every time. It felt like everything that didn't quite fit or didn't quite work in every other aspect of my life just made sense, and I feel more like myself. And a lot of people are like, oh, like, what's your real name? Like, oh, why don't you just like take off the hair and makeup and just be you? And I'm like, but this is the best version of me, and I love it. Like, I get emotional because it's like the moment I did that, I felt so strong. I felt powerful. I felt like, and like, I just loved every minute of it. And the funny thing is I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more, and there wasn't anything else going on in town at the time. There were only 2 shows, and one show was super classic. So that meaning like gown and glove, traditional jazz
what
band.
What were the shows?
There was that. There was Bust Out Burlesque, and then there was the Storyville Starlets, which was. Do you remember Suicide Girls?
Yeah, I
like,
remember. Yeah.
So it like for anybody that doesn't remember, that's like it was like punk rock, like girls with like crazy colored hair, Betty Page-esque tattoos, and it was more of this sort of like punk rock mentality of like we're gonna do what we want and we're sexy and we're awesome and like but it's not about you, it's about us. And so there was a crew of women, and it's not that was necessarily the vibe, but it was way more. That was community. That was, we would meet up each week and we would talk, we would watch old burlesque videos, we would get ideas, and like they were completely open to me doing stuff that was not traditional or not pretty, and not like they wanted to get weird and crazy. And so I started performing a little bit with them as well. And between both shows, as much as I loved it, it didn't quite fit. Like in the classic show, I wasn't classic enough. And in the other show, as much as I loved it, there was like, I wanted something more professional. Because you got to keep in mind, too, I came from this world of ballet where we had rehearsals in a studio space. Where we were working with orchestras and we had stage light. Like, it sounds so silly, but the simplicity of stage lights and a sound guy, like, just so you can focus on the dance. I wasn't used to performing in bars where, like, you're pressing play for yourself. And then it's like, it just was different.
We have a very professional setup here. As
I
you
mean,
can tell.
obviously, this is super professional.
It's no tub time with Trixie, but at least I have someone to press play for me.
I will tell you, to the audience at home, if you guys could see it, there are like tables and chairs, there are lights, there is air conditioning. It is I think these are even LED lights.
Those are, yes.
Wow.
The park cans up top are not.
Those are cans.
Yeah.
But this is super legit gig. If you guys ever come to Tipitina's, you are safe to use your credit card here. They will not steal your number. Ooh, sorry, now I messed that
No,
up.
not typically. No. Sorry,
she
I
says
didn't mean to interrupt
she smacks the mic.
No, but
this
it
is
was
a legit establishment.
So one of the groups was a little more professional than the other, or neither
it's
were?
not even. Well, that's the thing, is they weren't even. They were just 2 different. I feel like everything's on the spectrum. They were just different parts, and I wanted something that was run professionally on an actual stage, but I could still do the crazy weird stuff. And I really, really, really wanted, like, when I found out about the roots of burlesque and the sort of parallels with vaudeville, I wanted to add so much comedy. Like, to me, that made sense right from the start. And I didn't understand why there had to be a comedian that was a host and the girls that were performing could not also participate in that comedy. Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
No, I totally understand. That's something, at least a personal opinion. Sorry to give a personal opinion.
No, give a personal opinion.
No one gives a damn what I think. But the reason why and I'm not some kind of massive burlesque maniac. Like, I'm not a super fan or anything like that. I just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. That's what I was going to say. It's fun. It's sexual, but not necessarily erotic.
Well, and again,
it's supposed to be entertainment.
Well, so it's a spectrum, and this is something I've learned through doing burlesque, is that there's so many things that are under the umbrella of burlesque. So you can have somebody that, like Sally Rand, who's she's best known for the fan dance. She's like, people say she created it. If you actually do research, you can debate that however you want. But the concept is that she never took anything off. She was fully nude, and it was just the fans.
Always covered, yeah.
Yeah, but some people said she wore a bodysuit, but you never knew because she was so talented. It's basically adult peekaboo is what it was.
Yeah.
But that was the whole gimmick, was that she was so talented with these fans. The clothing was never even a part of it. So in that way, it's like, it's not necessarily about the strip tease, but more about the tease and the entertainment. And I've seen other people that do super sexual performances. That's almost more performance art, burlesque, like people pulling things out of orifices and like, doing stuff that's way more than what I would normally do, but it's still under the umbrella of burlesque. And then at the same time, you can have somebody pretend to be a bee and running around in a circle really fast, and that's also burlesque.
Yeah. I love how you call it a spectrum like that, just because it's something that I don't think a lot of people consider, because there's such a classic connotation maybe to burlesque of long gloves and long boots and long gowns and the fans and things like
Thigh
that.
highs.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how a lot of the shows and a lot of the performers, and I haven't seen burlesque in any other city. I've only seen it in New Orleans.
Oh, you're spoiled.
Am I spoiled?
You are spoiled. So we are actually one of the major hubs of
I wanted
burlesque.
to ask you about
yeah.
that.
So
Okay.
so burlesque, I think a lot of this also has to do with the internet and just the fact that we are such a international community now. But New York has a huge bustling burlesque scene. Seattle does. Chicago does. Like major cities tend to have big scenes, but New Orleans, for being a small town, has a huge scene. And a lot of that has to do with the history of how it developed here, hand in hand with jazz, which is why I think people like thinking of burlesque in the glove and gown and thigh highs, because it's easy for them to just accept that as like, oh, that's burlesque, check. I know what burlesque is.
Yeah.
But I think that is burlesque. It's not that it's not, but like, how sad would it be to be like, jazz is only a 4-piece band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's jazz. Like that's one element of jazz. That's not the only thing that jazz is. Like there's so many other variations to it. So I don't know. I like using that as sort of your baseline. Like use the gown and glove, use the traditional, use the classic songs, and then from there you can build and take it up or down or wherever you want. So as long as you have that strong foundation of your classic movement, striptease, musicality, all that stuff, then you can go wherever you want.
I wonder, at least, it being 2021, and we like to think of ourselves as a progressive society, are there still people that cast like this ugly, sinful type of shadow on this art, quite honestly, because it's performance art.
Yes.
And like we said, it is sexual and erotic, but also not. It's supposed to be entertaining.
I mean, like some people would say that. I think that it's very important to think about this with music as well. Like there's some people that will
devil's music,
the devil's music. Like
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to some of these old jazz songs, like I'm not even gonna say it. It's probably gonna get like, I don't know if I can say it, but like My Girl's that's a traditional song from like the 20s, I think.
Okay.
And it's dirty. Or Jelly Roll. Ain't gonna give you none of my Jelly Roll. That's filthy. And like, I'm sure that gave people some feels.
Yeah.
But that's not, like, that doesn't disregard the quality of the music or like all this other stuff. So I have a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot, but I get people that what I see probably the most of is people trying to sort of turn dancers that work in a strip club against burlesque dancers that perform in a theater environment. I find that people try and villainize one and raise the other up, and it's not a black and white scenario. It's a spectrum. There are several burlesque dancers that also work in strip clubs. There are several burlesque dancers that don't. There are several people that the people are people, and however you choose to express yourself is not wrong or evil, especially when it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Like it's just that. So I think that's sort of, and that's something that I learned too. Like when I first started, that was my opinion as well, and I'm embarrassed about it. I'm glad I've learned from there, because I wasn't educated on it, and I always thought that I didn't like taking tips, for example. I always thought that if a performer's quality of the performance should be good enough to pay the ticket price, and that's all we need from you. Your ticket price, your attention, your applause, like that's good. And it was actually the other burlesque dancers like, no, we need to get tips. And I was like, well, I don't want people to think that we need their tips. And it's like, but people tip bands all the time.
Yeah.
It's this thing. People like. It is a tip environment, and if they like it, and it was funny because audience members were like, "We want to tip. How can we tip?" And I kept being like, "No, don't," because I was afraid they were gonna like do something inappropriate. But the reality of it is like they're not. They just want to show their appreciation.
Appreciation, yeah.
And some people definitely don't want a tip, and that's fine too.
Well, burlesque, people that perform burlesque are not in it for the cash, I would assume. I'm sure.
I wish we were.
Well, yeah,
I
exactly.
really do.
You wouldn't do it for free necessarily, but it's not like anyone's.
Oh, this is interesting.
Okay.
Again, so when I first started performing, you have to realize that there were 2 burlesque troupes in town at the time, and one again was like quote unquote professional, and that they had like a set rate, and we were paid a set amount, but we didn't get tips, but it was set, but it was still in cash. And the other was like just to split the door in tips, and we didn't know what we were going to make. But when I started doing outside gigs, I remember being offered, and this was from venues. These are from venues that should have known better, but there was nobody to step up and tell them because everybody was just so excited to get the stage time or be involved or whatever. But venues would pay girls in beer or like throw them like, we'll give you $20 and like, and you get free drinks all night. Yeah, isn't that fun? And I'm just like, in hindsight, it's not that, like, I'd almost rather they just be like, we don't have a budget. Can we pay you in beer? Instead of like, it was almost like, but that's not what you would do for your sound guy.
No. Well, that's what I do with my sound guy.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah. Sorry, Ace.
Ace, I love you.
You got your beer, right? Yeah, he's got it back there. Yeah. This is, we're not getting money for this.
Well, but all right, so that's the thing too, is that like, there's a labor of love.
This is not his actual job. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's not? What's he doing back there?
He's just having a beer.
It gets me off the couch.
Yeah, it does get him off the couch. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It's Wednesday, whatever. He's not doing anything. You know.
It's nice. But yeah, I think that's like, I do a lot of stuff for free because it's a labor of love, because it's something that I'm truly passionate about. But when somebody's asking you to be like, hey, this isn't a fundraiser. This isn't like, we're not doing anything that's necessarily community oriented. We just want to have some topless ladies dancing in our club. Yeah, I would think that they should be compensated perhaps more than beer.
Yes.
So I was shocked about that. But I do think that there are a lot of people, and again, goes back to that sort of international community of like just sort of being like, these are standard rates. Like we should have a minimum of this. And there is a difference between a show that's working for the door versus a show that's, you know, buying the room or whatever. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with musicians. Like if you're busking, you know what you're getting into and you're busking. If you're doing a show that's a door deal, you know that's what it is. But if you're doing like a wedding, you should not have to ask the wedding party for tip. Like you know what I mean?
should be able to call your rate, basically. You know, or at least
it's
set
their
your own
most
rate.
magical day, and you are going to make it even more magical for a very small fee.
Is there a big call for burlesque at weddings?
There's a lot of burlesque for bachelorette and bachelor parties, whether it's
yes.
burlesque classes or just like customized burlesque shows. I think that's sort of what I found, again, too, in my burlesque career and through my company, my production company, is, and I think a lot of people don't know, the actual shows aren't what makes us money. The private events are. So it is truly a labor of love. So we do a lot of stuff where we do costume servers. Like we'll have a girl in a champagne skirt, or we'll have a girl, I have a giant champagne coupe that we'll put a girl pouring, drinking, which by the way, I see that you have a lovely friend. If anybody wants to sponsor me, I am so nice. Look at me.
Champagne Tribble.
Love it.
Jack, call me. I'll set you up with her.
It's gonna be great. But like, we do a lot of stuff like that. You know, anything from vintage cigarette girls to just ambient fan dancers. You know, typewriter poets. Like all these things that, because that's the thing, is everybody has a side hustle in order to pursue their passions, which is, I think that's just America and arts in the general. But yeah, there are a very lucky few that can do it full time. And even those that do it full time still have to make. Like the people that do it full time, they're still doing the commercial deals.
Yeah.
There's nothing artistic about playing for Coke. I mean, maybe there is that I just don't know about, but like, I don't see how like being like Coca-Cola is my, or I shouldn't say the name, not Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, I love you. Please sponsor me. Coca-Cola is my favorite.
Yes.
I love it. It's my favorite. But like any brand, you know, like this brand, I love it. Woo! I'm gonna play the trumpet. Like that's like, like you can't tell me that's for the art. It's for the money, and the money is what allows you to do the art. So and hopefully more people are able to figure out how to make it a viable financial endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I've never been part of that world, but I know plenty of performers, specifically musicians at the very least. It's hard to sell your art. You know, that's the problem with every type of artist, I think, especially performance artists,
Mm-hmm.
because we've gotten to a time, I guess, where people expect entertainment to almost be free. Like it's just on your phone or on your computer. Like, oh, there's so much
Yeah.
free stuff out there. Why should I pay for this? It's an experience, and the audience participation with something like the burlesque shows that y'all do. It's interactive. I think a lot of people don't consider that for a second.
Well, the thing is with live theater, live music, live dance, anything in that element, it's ephemeral. So it's only in that moment
Yes.
that you get to experience it. And so I think a lot of people, they have no problem putting down money for a bag. Like people pay $20,000 for a bag, but the act of paying $20 for a ticket, they're like, eh. And it's because it's a physical, tangible thing. But I think one of the nice things, I keep calling them silver linings, like in the pandemic, that we are still on the tail end of, I hope.
Well, we're making our way out. I mean, we've
do
had
it.
in-person shows for like 7 weeks here.
That's
so,
amazing. That's
yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's
And,
small, but
no, but
tables.
you're doing
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
that's awesome. But I think the pandemic really highlighted the importance of human interaction and the sort of like quality of how it adds to your life. Even the act of going out to a bar rather than drinking at home, like you see people, you see music, it gives more. I don't know if it's necessarily purpose, but excitement and like levels to an existence. Because I mean, we could live forever, but it'd be really sad if that whole time is just spent inside a room,
True. You were talking about side hustles before,
Oh, yeah.
and how that's something. And I know I love hearing horror stories of people's jobs sometimes. And I know one of your funny ones.
I got a funny one.
I
for
know
you.
one. If it's going to be, sorry if I call you out on this
No,
one,
do.
and you have to tell a different one, but having to be dressed as a water heater
That's
in
the
a trash
one.
can. Yeah.
That's the one.
You have to spend a weekend at a conference in a trash can.
Oh
and
my
like,
gosh, this was
I'm
my.
a water heater.
I'm a water heater. Hello. This is my favorite, like, worst gig story ever. I was touring a lot at the time, so I was working. It's funny because I actually didn't know if I was going to stay in New Orleans because I wasn't able to get enough work as a burlesque dancer. And I was really trying to make that transition to doing burlesque full time. So I was working with this sort of like. It was like a junk band vaudeville show called Yard Dogs Roadshow.
Okay.
That's based in Oakland, and they were opening for Les Claypool.
Very
It
nice.
was awesome.
Yeah.
And so they had that gig. So I was going, excuse me, back and forth between here and San Francisco, and I got I got offered this gig, and they were saying we are looking for dancers or trainers because we need somebody with great posture and strength and physical build to wear this costume for a convention. It was an electricity convention. And they're like, the costume is extremely heavy, so we need to have somebody who is both strong and has good physical movement, and all you're going to be doing is wearing this costume, for 3-4 days, whatever. And I got the call, and I said, oh, I can totally do that. I would love to do that. And it was explained to me, Mr. Peanut, how it's got like the legs and then it's the giant peanut, but the arms. So that's the way it was described to me. It's like your whole body head's going to be covered, but they want like sexy lady legs and arms. Like they want you in heels. And I was like, okay, like to me, that's totally vintage vaudeville. Like, let's all go to the lobby,
Yeah.
Like the cigarette dancing candy or whatever. I was like, that's cute. And I said, I'm available, but I'm flying in that day. Is that okay? And they're like, oh, we're a little nervous. I think we might go with somebody else. It's like, all right, it's fine. I landed at the airport that day, and about an hour, I've been only in New Orleans an hour, and I get my phone immediately starts blowing up. It's like, how fast can you get to the convention center? Now I was like, I can be there in 5-10 minutes. Just give me a second. I get to the convention center, and there is a water heater with legs walking into walls and clearly drunk. Whoever was in, I don't actually know them personally, but whoever was in the water heater was clearly drunk, and it reeked of alcohol. Like this water heater reeked. Now the water heater, the costume. This is a long story. Maybe you guys can edit it down. But it basically was a plastic garbage can with armholes that they have covered in foam with those big, think Disney character eyes and Disney Mickey Mouse hands and Mickey Mouse shoes. And it was not sexy lady legs or lady arms. We were wearing like black sweatpants. Like, so I looked like this weird clown mime.
You could have gotten any sober human to come do this. type of thing.
Any human that I think had the strength, because it really was hard, because you had to have core strength to hold it up, because it was like, the costume was like a 100-pound costume.
Oh, wow.
It was heavy. But like, I've done that with backpacks and like showgirl stuff, and like, it was pretty funny. And there was a light bulb. I didn't tell you this part. There was a light bulb and a mini heater, and the mini heater like was friends with the water heater. She's like, she's fine. She's fine. She's like, sober up, sober up. Like, you could hear them talking. The light bulb is like, this is not fine. And the person who's running the event, who's not from New Orleans, is like, we just need to fix this right now. Like, this is terrible for our brand. I think it was General Electric or something. It was a big company. And so finally, they put me in this costume, which reeked of booze. And they were like, just go out there and just wave to people and say hi. I was like, okay. I got paid an insane amount of money. And I was only able to wear it, like, legally, they could only keep me in the costume for 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, because, like, I guess any more was, like, breaking some sort of rules, because it was so heavy.
Okay.
And I don't think it had air holes. Like, I think I was just breathing through, like, the empty hollow of my legs, like, because like it was a literal garbage can I was in. I have one picture somewhere. I'll have to send it to you guys.
You have to send it so we can add it. Yeah.
But it paid me enough to, like, I basically went to Europe afterwards and spent 2 weeks like having fun in Europe. I was like, I'm going to take this and just be silly. The most ridiculous gig by far.
Yeah.
But that was like I was a very high paying gig. I was a very glamorous water heater.
No, I'm sure some of the. It's so outrageous. I love the idea of a light bulb and a smaller water heater. Like,
and you have to realize,
come on, get it together.
They have the big cartoon eyes,
Yeah.
and like the big cartoon smile, so they're talking at each other, but nothing's moving,
Yeah.
and like they're not blinking, and this little tiny, like they really just needed people with the physique to get into the costume, and like the light bulb was way taller than me. And they had to replace the light bulb person, too, because the original light bulb person wasn't tall enough. And the light bulb costume was even heavier.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, it had to be a guy, and they had hired a girl, and she's like, I can't do this. It was funny. It was very funny.
Well, you performed, obviously, from conventions to the Kennedy Center and dive
highlight.
bars and crawfish boils. Are there any more, like, I love hearing nightmare stories. So if you have any of those, tell me.
I got plenty.
Well, I want to know, like, what are the best types of gigs and what are the worst ones like that?
I will tell you, one of the best gigs of my career was performing at the Kennedy Center.
Okay.
And that was really great because it was this I love collaborations. I think if you can see from my work, I'm always down to partner with a band or another artist, or even just like feature a guest performer in my show that's already has a bunch of dancers, but let's bring in somebody else. Like, I truly believe like teamwork makes the dream work, and if anything, it's almost worked against me a couple times because it cuts into your overall budget, and like some people are like, oh, we didn't really want to see that, we wanted to just see the burlesque. But I think it's so important to continue the evolution of an art form and of a person, and to like work with other people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I get really into that. But yeah, no, the Kennedy Center was with Preservation Hall, bingo. We also had like Big Frida was there. I can't remember all but there were so many people. Noisician Coalition was there.
Yeah.
And I know I'm forgetting people, but it was this uber collaborative project. But personally, it was so cool because as a kid, I trained at the Kennedy Center in a ballet program with Suzanne Farrell for 3 summers of my life.
Wow.
So I spent 3 summers living in DC in the rehearsal studios, watching shows in the theater, and then come back full circle, this healthy person that is stronger from the things I've been through, and doing an art form that I not only love but like have come to identify with, and this version of myself. And I got to play the piano topless at the Kennedy Center, and I don't know how many other people have gotten to do it. It was
Probably very few.
It's just like, it was this fun. Oh, and then at that show too, I ran into one of my old dance teachers, which was I trained with her in Miami City Ballet, but like she was an American Ballet Theater principal that was now there, and it was just like this full circle, amazing experience.
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
That is crazy awesome. Tell me another horror story.
Okay, another horror story. So this story did not actually happen to me, but happened to a friend. But it's too good. It's not. Well, I do have another horror story too. I'll share that one later. So this one was again, little dive bar in New Orleans, group of girls, and they're doing burlesque.
Which bar?
It's actually not here anymore. I want to say it was on Decatur. I can't remember the name of it now.
Okay.
But it was this bar on Decatur. And I think this is the perfect example of just like how New Orleans just sort of equals out the playing field for everybody.
Okay.
Great show, great performers. We're changing in the storage closet, liquor cabinet, because a lot of venues are not geared for dance. They're geared for music or, musicians, and they don't need a changing room necessarily. And while the girls are back there changing, this guy walks in, just completely drunk, and they immediately like, stop, you need it, sorry sir, we're using this as a change room, you can't be here. He's like, it's fine. Immediately turns, puts his hand up on the wall in the corner, proceeds to take out his junk and starts peeing.
Oh my God.
He was so drunk he thought he was in the bathroom. He is literally peeing on liquor that is going to later be like behind the bar. Well, there's 3 girls in the dressing room in different states of undress, screaming at him, and he is so plastered he can't even remember. Now, this is where it's like New Orleans is a beautiful city that's also a sinking city, so it was sinking down between his legs, coming towards the girls in the other corner. So the girls at this point just start screaming, grabbing all their stuff, like going for higher ground, like running out of there. And to me, that's one of those like magic New Orleans moments where it's like, I can't even imagine that happening anywhere else.
No, that wouldn't happen anywhere else.
That was special. And then this is my favorite story. This is the story of, I don't know if I should tell this story. This is a bad story.
We can edit it later if you don't want to. If you don't like the way. You'll watch this and then decide whether or not we keep it.
Okay. So this story is the story I call of the silver panties. And this was the time I learned you cannot reason with crazy. This is also the story that has inspired me to write a book, which I'm in the process. Well, no, that's the other thing too. I love writing. I'm an avid journaler, and so I've always wanted to sort of like compile my notes when I've been on tour and sort of put it together, but sort of a David Sedaris style of just like the most ridiculous, horrible tour stories.
Yeah, but he's got the great stories.
Oh yeah, it's they're all stuff that's horrible. I'm sort of waiting for people to like die or like fall off the internet before I publish. I'm not going to publish it for years, but it's like it's already in preparation. I have a couple stories down, but this is the one that was just like I tell it every time. To me, it's ridiculous. Backstage at a show, professional show. One of my shows I'm running. Everything's organized. Blah blah blah. I provide costumes for any of the group acts. Blah blah blah, and. But the ladies, at least at the time, were required to bring their own undergarments. So like I basically covered everything except the panties and the shoes. Now, of course, I cover both, and we have somebody that cleans them in between and all this stuff. But I was like, that's how it's going to work. This girl backstage is like, oh, I forgot to bring my panties for this costume. I can't perform. And that's the equivalent in a burlesque show, because it's like to set the time and to set, like you need that time frame for somebody to do a change, for a set change, like whether it's a costume change or whether it's even just breathing for an aerialist that's done a moment to just like stop, catch their breath, and then get ready for another act. It's very timed out. And so to do that, that's just like a drummer walking off stage being like, man, I need to take a smoke break on this one. Like you guys are gonna just have to like keep the rhythm. Like you got it, figure it out. And so I was like, oh, well, surely you have other underwear with you here. And she's like, yeah, but they're not the right color. And I'm like, okay. And at the time we sold underwear as part of our merch. We sold like cute little ruffle panties. I was like, I literally have like 10, 12 colors, whatever you want, just take it. I'll comp. It doesn't matter. Just, you can't go on stage bottomless. Like you need to wear something. And she's like, yeah, but none of them are silver. And if it's not silver, nobody's going to understand. So at this point, I'm like, she'll change her mind. I go on stage at this point. I come back off stage. We're 2 acts away from her act now at this point. She's just sitting backstage, like drinking, chilling, just like nothing. And I'm like, girl, where are your drawers? And she goes, she's like, well, I don't have silver drawers. I can't go on stage. Nobody's gonna get it. And I like at this point, I just start trying to like negotiate with her. I'm like, well, we can get the host to explain what happened. We can redo the like have him do an intro that explains that you don't need silver panties or like literally like I was like, you can wear these. Like I was like any of these. And she's like, yeah, but it's not gonna make sense unless it's silver. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. So finally, we're at one act before her act now. I literally like pull the car over, bad mom, like mad mom. I'm like, kids, everybody stop what you're doing. We're looking for silver panties. Dig. And we started digging through everybody's bag. We found a pair of silver panties that I have no idea how they got to be where they were or who had worn them or how they even came into existence. And these were like really gross. Imagine if I did that here and we found a pair of silver panties backstage somewhere that you have no idea where it came from, but they're silver.
Yeah.
So I look at her and I go, girl, we got you some silver panties, or you wear any of these panties that from the merch table, like whatever color that's just not silver, that's clean and new. And I said, but you're wearing a pair of panties when you get on stage. And I will let you figure out which one she wore. And then the show went on perfectly fine. And to this day, I'm like, you can't reason with crazy. You have to just be like,
She wore the silver panties.
oh, 100%. Yeah. And like, meanwhile, I'm like, oh, like, it's just like.
Still keep in contact with this girl?
No, we're not super close
I was
anymore.
saying, she's still performing locally. What's the name of her act?
Oh my God, I cannot. I think a couple select few people know who she is.
Okay,
And and then we're gonna leave it at that.
That's cool. That's fine.
But to me, like that is just one of those stories I can never just. There's another. Oh my God, I have so many stories. They're ridiculous. You have to get the book. You'll have to get the book.
All right.
There's a plug for my unpublished book as of yet.
Buy the book. You're going to reference this and
It's called
love it.
#Traveling Showgirls: Tales of a Wandering Jew.
There you go.
I'm very excited.
Well, you brought up the Jew thing, so let's go ahead.
Okay.
I don't mean
Lean
to
into that.
I'm Jewish also. So,
Okay, fabulous.
yeah,
Welcome.
I don't know if you figured that out by my last name. There are a lot of Jewish girls that do burlesque.
I mean, I guess
You must be the most famous burlesque.
I am. Well, I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that there are. I mean, we have the Chosen League of Burlesque Performers Facebook group.
Okay, that's cool.
But there's a lot of Jewish burlesque performers locally. I only happen to, off the top of my head, know one other. But I know plenty other Jewish burlesque performers. And in fact, there is a show that happens in New York annually called the Menorah Hora. And they basically bring in a collective of just Jewish performers to like poke fun at the holidays.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's very funny that I'm technically a bad Jew in that I don't practice.
It doesn't make you a bad Jew.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, thank God. Thank goodness. It just makes you Jewish. Yeah, it's I think like it's ridiculous that everybody has an act that becomes their signature act, and that's sort of what, like, I have multiple acts that I perform, but my hot Jewish chicks act was the one that was like, that was the one that like people really started to notice me, and that was the one they requested, and that was the one that became like, oh, Trixie Minx, the hot Jewish chick. Oh, I know her. Like it was just this, and I've gone through. I have a giant dreidel, and I've gone through 4 now at this point because it's been.
You've had
I mean,
4 of them?
they've died over the years, but like I've had to replace them because I use them so much.
Yeah.
I've traveled with them. It's ridiculous.
Featured in the Gypsy Phonic Disco Dreidel song
Yes.
as well.
Highlight of my career.
Yeah, well, Ben Ellman, obviously, one of our benevolent owners of Tipitinas from Galactic.
Another member of the tribe.
Exactly. There's also what do we call it? The fraternity of Jews in the music industry of New Orleans that aren't actually musicians. There's about a dozen of us, I would say.
Okay, so I
Ben
feel
doesn't
like,
count.
Oh, he doesn't count.
You might be borderline. You're not a musician, but you perform with
I do.
musicians.
That's why I keep trying to tell you I'm a musician. I play the piano.
All right, well then you don't get to join. Sorry. It's intergender also. It's not just dudes.
Okay, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's a fraternity, but it's not just guys.
All right, I appreciate that.
Aside from all of that, sorry. Let's keep talking about Judaism. Why
All right,
not?
let's go for it.
Are you a bat mitzvah?
I am not.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
I
Okay,
had
so
my.
you are a bad Jew then.
I
Okay.
am an
Yeah.
incredibly bad Jew, and the reason this is terrible. The reason I didn't get bat mitzvah is I didn't want to miss my ballet classes. Like they were, so that's terrible. And my mom was okay
not
with it. My dad was
terrible.
okay with it. My grandparents,
okay.
they're rolling in their graves still. And that in tennis, the fact that I have such I joke that I'm like a T-Rex because I have really weak upper body, and like they wanted nothing more than for me to play tennis.
Really?
And I can't. I don't have the upper body strength for it.
Well, your folks, I assume, old Jews in Florida.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mine have gone there too. It's the law.
It is,
You have to go there once you get a certain age.
It's
So,
true.
yeah.
Originally from upstate New York, down there. But yeah, no. To get bar bat mitzvah, you have to study for like a year. About
Yeah, sure.
Some people do more. Some people some people do like 6 month like fast paced.
It doesn't have to be long at all.
It's really.
I don't think so. I mean, I had two older brothers, so I was able to pick it up fairly quickly.
Okay.
But
I was
I
always
was-
under the impression it was like a year at least.
That depends. I mean, some people they study with the rabbi, whatever else. I don't remember my rabbi being a part of my bar mitzvah much at all. He was there, but he didn't really run the show.
What was your theme?
There wasn't a theme. Was there a theme?
Well, no,
Like,
you're
to the
supposed to do a party after. That's the whole
was.
point of getting it. Like that's the only reason the kids do it. I
No,
shouldn't say that's the only reason. I'm sure they like want to do it, but like
I don't remember there being a specific theme. I was playing like basketball and baseball at the time. Maybe there was a sports theme. I don't really remember. I remember the one thing I do remember is my mother. God bless my mother because she is such a sweet lady. For like the gifts or centerpieces or whatever, this is what I remember most. I used to love Hershey's chocolate when I was a kid. Not anything crazy, but like she took a bunch of chocolate bars and removed the wrappers and got like a caricature of myself as the wrapper, and that
that's
was like the party
sweet.
gift. She probably still has some of them because she doesn't throw things away. She's a neat hoarder, as we call it. Things are boxed
Scrapbook.
and labeled and stored
we would
away.
get along famously.
Yeah, it's not stacked in the living room or anything.
Yeah.
It's all put away, but it's
Yeah.
all saved. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Let's get off the Judaism stuff.
Okay, sorry.
It's just getting weird.
It's getting weird now.
It's getting weird. What is the secret to choosing a good burlesque performance name?
It's funny. There's an actual formula where they say like your pet's name and then the street you grew up on or whatever. That's
That's
your
a
drag
porno
name or
name or-
porno.
yeah.
Whatever. It's like but for me, when you know anything with alliteration, anything that you can tie in with a jewel, French, like a color, like a flower, that's always awesome. But for me, all I knew is that my name was going to start with a T because they gave me the tassels, and they're like, "You are whoever the tassel twirler." So if you can be a T name, that would be awesome. That was the very first show I ever did, and so I was like, I wrote this long list, and I remember I was doing a promotional photo shoot at Tipitina's, just to get some images, just so they could be like, "This is one of our performers," and the guy that was photographing me at the time. I'm a goof. I'm really bad at photo shoots. I'm always like, they like, be sexy. I'm like this, like this, like that, and I couldn't do it. And I was just acting a fool. And he was like, looking at you through this camera, dressed so classically, yet so ridiculous. Reminds me of this line from an old movie where the guy goes, "She's a crazy minx." And as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, I'm Trixie Minx." Like it just hit me.
That's cute. It's adorable. Well, the minx has a lot of things. I went ahead and looked this up. Synonyms for minx.
Okay, tell me
Some of
it.
them are good. Some of them not so good.
what?
A chippy or a doxy, which I think is like British slang for like prostitute or something.
Lord.
Not so good. Fancy woman, which I think is funny.
Fancy lady.
Floozy, hoochie, hussy, Jezebel, tramp, trollop, and wench are also all
I mean, I think we
synonyms.
could all be elements of that on different days.
Yeah, I suppose so. I thought it was funny that
That's Minx. What's Trixie then?
I don't know. I didn't take the time to Google that. Go ahead and look that up for us, Ace. The etymology of Trixie.
I'm on it.
He's on it. He's on it. Are there? Well, speaking of at least the character names, do you find it difficult to be Trixie or not be Trixie all the time?
I actually again, like I feel this is sort of hard to explain to people who maybe not. Let me start over. Basically, being Trixie is authentically me at 100%. A lot of people, when they meet me, they're like, "You're too nice," or "You're too ridiculous," or "You're too goofy." Like that's me unfiltered. When I tone back the real me and like public situations because again, like growing up, I think everybody who's like in showbiz obviously had some sort of like, rough point, or we probably all did. Like nobody was the popular kid in school.
Yeah, very few. The popular kids can go to hell and they're gone. That's what happened to them.
It's just like it's one of those things. Like I was the weird kid, and I talked too much, and I was the weird ballerina, and like it just, to me, I feel like Dumbo's the perfect analogy. You know how Dumbo, when he had the feather, he could fly? Mm-hmm. When I'm Trixie, that's me.
Okay.
And I don't need the feather, but like that feather is like being Trixie is me, like with the feather. Like it makes me feel like me.
Yeah, so it's not camouflage. It's
really
more
not.
of the spotlight almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's sort of like it takes what I do and then just magnifies it and like blows it up. So that's also really funny too, is people are like, your character, and I'm like, it's not a character. It's me.
Well, also I get that there's sensitivity to what you do because you do perform, and you do bear it all.
I do
essentially.
pants off performing.
Exactly. So there is a little bit of safety that every person doesn't know.
So again, like with this, I'm not sure why, and I'm very grateful for it. I've seemed to have, of course, I'm not going to jinx myself. I've been able to. My entire career, I've had very few creepy experiences, but I know other performers that is not their experience.
Yeah.
They've had several creepy experiences. So I don't know what type of energy I'm putting out there, or what vibe, or like what's going on. But people tend to like look at me and be like, "Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's silly." Like it's not like, "Oh, I need to know where she lives and stalk her." Like that. I don't get so much of that.
Yeah.
But occasionally I'll get something where I'm like, "Ooh, that was a little creepy."
Too
like,
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always think if people are like, "Am I being weird?" I'm like, just think, if you told that to any other person, would it be weird? And if the answer is yes, then yes, you are being weird.
Well, there's also something else. Obviously, not that there's some sort of seedy underbelly to what it is that you do, but the element of the sexuality and everything else, like it can breed that kind of attention that is unwanted.
Well, but this brings up an important point. Like, why are bodies sexualized? Like bodies.
Because you have sex with bodies, that's why.
Well, I mean, most people do.
Yeah.
I don't know what else everybody's doing, but that's the thing, is like a body is sexualized, but it doesn't. Why can't it just be beautiful? Why can't it be anatomy? Why can't it be like shapes? Why can't it be expression? Like that's. I think that's really interesting, is that like everybody immediately is like, "Oh, a naked body, sex," and it's like, yes, I totally see the correlation. I'm not blind. It's like I get it, but like, can you see just like, if you think about like statues, like Greek statues and stuff like that, just the beauty of the human form. They weren't like, "That's a sexy statue." You know what I mean?
They didn't stash it in their closet and bring it out for the dirty times.
There was a modern dancer named Isadora Duncan, and she used to dance with scarves, and she did a lot of stuff like that wasn't necessarily very costumed, and it was all about seeing the muscles and the shape and the movement, and it's, to me, that's so much a part of it too, or just using your body as an instrument. Like, why can't this be a tool to make people laugh?
Yeah.
Or a tool to make people cry, or like just anything at that point.
Well, it's again, personal opinion here. Like I said before, the fun element to burlesque is why it's enjoyable. And talking about the sexuality of it and stuff, I would assume, and this is just out of left field, that the biggest fans of burlesque are probably straight women. Am I wrong about that, or am I right?
You are completely right.
Yeah, and so it's whenever I've been to a burlesque show, it's more than 50% women.
I am so glad you noticed that, because like that's the thing, is people are really quick to be like, "burlesque."
It's not perverts in the crowd,
No, it's very much female empowerment, very like, very, yay ladies, like vibe. And a lot of it is sort of, I don't know, I feel like for somebody who might not be comfortable expressing themselves, or maybe not even have that much to say, that they don't feel the need to express themselves, to see somebody else like in their element, costumed up and like just being ridiculous and or being like sensual, like it's this thing where you're like, you can put your mindset onto that, be like, I could do that, or even if it inspires you to be like, I'm going to be like her and I'm going to get a costume and I'm going to, even if you just wear it at home, like just being like, I feel good about myself. Like it's that, it's sort of infectious energy of just positivity.
Well,
And joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, we're talking about, like, why does it have to be about the you know, I don't know what the word is, but it's not all fashion magazine models up here doing it. It's
Yeah, and like-
regular
and-
women. And no, I'm not putting you. You're very beautiful, top to bottom. Gorgeous, gorgeous knockout for sure. But some of my favorite performers are the curvier girls sometimes. Like,
Well-
it's so much more fun and enjoyable to, not that I'm laughing at them at
Yeah.
all. I'm just saying, like, all of the non-standard beautiful body types are what makes burlesque special to me.
Well, and then again, that's like, it's different for everybody, because there's other people that would completely disagree with you. And again, this is where we talk about spectrum. Like there are shows that, you know, I don't think it's good to necessarily be like, this is better than that and that's better than this. But like, again, it comes back to bodies and performance, and like, you should accept the performance for what the performance sake is. Like, you know, if you saw a musician on stage and didn't like what he was wearing, you wouldn't be like, I hate that musician,
Yeah,
I'm
that
never coming to a
song
show.
sucks. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, so why would you do that for a dancer? Like, you might not like that act. Give them another opportunity to like see what else they do. They're not a one-trick pony. And other people want different things too. Like some people, they want gown and glove. They don't want to go beyond that, and that's fine. Like there's plenty of options.
No, I love seeing on a bill, and that's the other cool thing about this. It's not just one performer. You can see as many as a dozen girls or whatever in one night.
Yeah.
And you see.
And guys.
Yeah, I mean, I love that it is a variety. You get girls that are rail thin, and then girls that are plump and round, or guys that are muscular, or guys that are just like dad bod guys or whatever else.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to do right now,
and
is become a
everything.
dad bod.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Good job. All right,
That's my-
I guess. I don't know.
I'm-
You're not doing it.
You haven't seen me fully dressed up yet. I'm a shapeshifter.
Well, I've seen the Jazz Fest dad.
Yeah,
so
that's me.
You can put on the dad bod. I don't think that you should transform into the dad bod. It's going to just
hot.
give you physical pain is what happens. It's hard to live. You know, that's all it is.
It's hard going upstairs.
Yeah, totally. All the stuff. There's just a couple more things that I want to get to,
Yeah,
I
hit
guess.
it.
Is there any ideas or topics or themes that you totally avoid that are too touchy, taboo, risque, whatever else?
Actually, yeah. And this has been, again, like, I think this is important to sort of talk about, is like learning experiences, like I think there's this quick reaction to be like, when you find out about anything, to be like, oh, I didn't do it wrong, or I didn't mean it like that. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm sure you didn't mean it wrong, or you didn't do it like that, but let's learn, and let's, moving forward, not do that, or add this in, or do this. And for me, we used to do the Nutcracker, like a burlesque version of the Nutcracker. And there's a lot of, in the Nutcracker, the whole second act is the land of the sweets, but they're associated with different countries. And the music, the acts, it's sort of like typecasting countries. And it was this thing of like, is that appropriate? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to, overthink anything, but it's also like, all right, so if you're feeling, I think if you feel icky or iffy about anything, it's like, okay, work your creative muscle. What can we
Find
do?
another way,
Yeah,
yeah.
either like really pump up the candy aspect, or, like talk to somebody who is from that place, or like is that ethnicity, and like really be like, what do you think? Like, what feels right to you? Like, how can we be better? Like, it's, I think that's one of the things, is like to really sort of, and it is a thing, like, even Dita Von Teese has this like sort of geisha act that has been very controversial, because like when she did it, it was not, the intent and purpose behind it was not to demean or stereotype anybody, but it can be perceived as that way. So it's like, okay, cool, so we retire that act, or we don't bring it unless we like introduce it properly, or however you want to fit it so that it's a better performance.
All right.
So I think that's one of the things that I've found to be very like, it is so thematic, and it
Yeah.
comes up a lot. Like a lot of people request different things where it's like, oh, that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, well, I can totally understand that. It makes total sense. It seems like sometimes you push the boundary so far. I imagine there must be a wall.
Well, and it's so weird what is a wall and what isn't. Like, like legally, wearing a G-string and pasties means you're dressed. Like if the pasties came off, we would be naked. If you saw an areola, you would go blind and
Yeah, obviously
most likely die.
it's evil.
So,
It's bad. It's illegal. All the
yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Let alone bottomless would surely set everybody in the room on fire. So I luckily have not had to witness any of that. But yeah, like that's the other thing too, is that it's so funny where, again, like it's really funny with social media too, like what bodies are sort of demonized and what are not. Like a voluptuous body is not okay to post, but like somebody that's more flat-chested or has less curves, like that's okay to post. It's very weird. It's very weird. Yeah, I think that's where my line is, though.
All right. Future of burlesque. Is it growing, shrinking, getting better, getting easier, getting harder?
It is, well, burlesque is growing, that's for sure, 100%. Whether it's getting better or not, I think a lot of that remains to be seen with everything we touch post-pandemic. I hope people are moving forward more thoughtfully and ethically with every regard to stuff they do now, like not just like, oh, I'm going to see a show, but like, is this show paying its performers? Like, like what are the conditions? Like, just, it sounds so silly to break it down like that.
It's a business.
But yeah, like you want to make sure you're
ethical
supporting.
Business.
Yeah, but like support a local venue. Like make sure that they're getting the love, and not that you shouldn't support a chain, but like make sure the local performers get the love that the chain venue gets as well. And I think I do, in my heart of hearts, really believe it's going to be good. Like, because I know where I'm at, I know where I stand, and the people I talk to, like everybody is just so excited to get back into it, and so like it's not anxiousness, but just like we're ready, and we want to do things, and the shows we're currently doing are so safety is the first priority, and then entertainment, and that's the way it needs to be. But when we can get to a point where safety is not the first concern, then I think it's really going to just in a beautiful way.
I hope so too. I mean, you said that, I think it's great just because you're such a leader for the scene, and in 15 short years have become the queen of burlesque in New Orleans.
Well, the funny thing is I actually don't have a queen title. So they do burlesque competitions all over the place.
Okay.
And I don't like competing.
You're the queen. I don't know if, do you
I'm
not
the queen
believe
of
that?
no, I believe it, but I'm the queen of cheese, like legitimately. I'm the queen of the underwear parade, legitimately. I'm the queen of crew boo. I'm the queen of crew delusion. So I'm like, I've been a queen, but I'm a firm believer that like, audience at home, girl, you're a queen. You don't need a crown to prove it. Like, if you are a queen, you hold your head high, and you lead, and you take care of your people, and like, that's essentially what it is. Is like
You're the leader. I mean, how many people do you have associated through Trixie Minx Productions? Over 100, right?
over 100, yeah.
Over 100.
And it's so funny because like I didn't even realize it was that much until, again, like bringing back to the pandemic, like we had to actually list like who we paid out and who was doing what and how much. I was like, oh my gosh, we got a lot of people on our roster. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got all those fire breathers, gypsies, carnies, and weirdos, right?
And I wouldn't have it any other way. I want
Exactly.
more.
You need more. You need more. There's plenty around. They probably just don't know that you've got a union of them or something.
It really is like my greatest hope is like when I can't dance anymore, I'm still have like a safe space, whether it's in production or just talent booking or fingers crossed maybe one day even a venue, like just like I would love to have something, because this is one thing I see with burlesque dancers in particular, that these women fight so hard to really make for better work conditions and treatment and just respect in general. And then when their career ends, you have a bunch of new performers that are having to start from scratch. There's not necessarily that handoff somehow. I don't know why. And I've been very fortunate, and I do know some of the shim-shamettes that were my predecessors.
Yeah.
And I know some of we call them living legends when you have older performers in burlesque that don't perform anymore, but like, ladies in their 70s or 80s that are still around, and I had a connection with one of them that was local, and just talking to her about her story and stuff, like they really helped me sort of like stand my ground and be firm in my convictions and belief that we should have the decency to have a stage space. Like that shouldn't be a crazy request, or a dressing room or water. These are simple things that should happen. And so I really do hope that whatever the future holds, that like there can be this sort of hand-holding, passing of the torch to the next generation. So that'd be awesome.
I think you'll get it.
I hope
absolutely do. I hope. Well, we're not done yet. Actually,
Okay.
I was about to wrap it up.
I think that's a sign from our higher power.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, drink some more of that champagne. You're a bit of a foodie, best I can understand. I know that you're a cheesemonger, or the
Yes.
queen of cheese. But we usually end these talking about po' boys. I don't know if you made it to one of the ends of these interviews and just clicked around, but if you made it to the end, you realize that we always talk about po' boys
Nice.
at the end. Stanton Moore of Galactic has a signature po' boy at Guys called The
Nice.
Bomb, and it just created this conversation. I just thought it would be fun to talk to everyone. And in New Orleans, po' boy is kind of one of the things that we do. Do you have a go-to spot? What is your go-to po' boy? But more specifically, I want you to create your own signature po' boy.
Okay. So
Let's start with where you normally go.
Okay. So you're probably gonna hate me. I hope this doesn't make me a
Don't
bad.
say that you don't eat po' boys.
I do eat them, but I can't eat them. Like I like they fill me up so much.
They're
I
supposed
get I know, but I get sleepy and I go to bed. So like po' boy fest, like I can't do all the po' boys. I have to I'm doing a po' boy and I'm doing half of it, and then I'm like it's over for me for the
Yeah,
rest
that's
of the day.
fine. That's fair.
It's a little basic, but the Acme Peacemaker, whenever I have company in town, I take them right there, and I'm like, I know you'll like this. I know you'll love it.
Yeah.
Let's go. I do tend to get po' boys from, and now I'm blanking on it, right by Oz. Before the shows, we would go over there.
Verdi Mart?
No, Verdi Mart po' boys have done me dirty in the past.
You're not the first.
I'm like, oh no, because when you're drunk, there's nothing better than Verdi Mart. And I was really drunk this one day. I was like, I got po' boys, sober this up. And it did me dirty. I was in bed for a long time.
Okay.
It was not a good scene. No hate on Verdi Mart, just didn't work for me that day.
That's fair. Well, let's create your signature po' boy.
Okay, my
then.
signature po' boy definitely has shrimp, fried shrimp for
Okay.
sure. Completely dressed. And I think I would add cheese. That would be my thing.
All right. Well, that's not too out of the box.
That's not too out of the box. What else should I put? Pickles? What else should I put in there? I guess, but pickles come with it.
Yeah, often come with the
Yeah, I mean, more pickles? I don't know.
fried pickles, maybe.
Nah, that would mess
Wow.
with the shrimp. I'm a purist.
All right. Well, what kind of cheese? Maybe that's something.
Ooh, pepper jack.
All right.
Change up a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's a little spicy. You are not pleased with my.
Not necessarily. I was expecting something crazy.
No,
The
I guess
Peacemaker is a better signature.
it is. It really is. I don't know. I'm simple. Or I shouldn't say I'm simple. That sounds
I won't
terrible.
be pushy. That's okay.
No, but I like straight up catfish po' boys. Are my favorite go-to, but I do really like fried shrimp po' boys. I tend to prefer the seafood over the meats. But yeah, no, I think simple is just keep it classic.
Okay. Well, adding cheese is fairly significantly different since hardly anyone.
All right, I got a new idea. So basically, we're gonna take a shrimp po' boy, put a fried crab in it, fried soft shell crab, add cheese, deep fry the whole thing, serve it with a side of cheese fondue, and then put a pickle on top.
That is perfect, actually.
The thing is if I ate that, I would definitely die.
You
I would
don't
just
have to
die.
survive it. You just need to create it. It's not necessarily for you.
Oh, well,
this
now
is
that
your
you
signature po' boy.
Okay,
What's it
well,
going to be called?
let's start over then.
What-
I thought I had to eat it.
That
That's why I was
awesome.
so concerned.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. We don't have a cook in the back that's making this for you.
I don't know what you have going on here. I'm waiting for all sorts of surprises.
No, we don't have any surprises.
Okay, no cooking surprises. Okay, got it. No, honestly, I think.
The shrimp and soft shell crab with cheese fondue on the side is actually a really good idea.
All right, so then we're gonna do it. Done. But I feel like whatever. So who does this? Krabby Jacks. They do the deep fried roast beef sandwich.
Well, Giacomo's has the deep fried
Yeah.
roast beef po' boy. Yeah.
Yes. When I saw that and had that, I was like, done. That's if I ever did a po' boy, that's what it would be. So yes, I do actually. Okay, so maybe I would keep it the same. Yeah, I think I'd feel comfortable. I'm confident in my answer.
No, that's a really good one. That is a
Thank
really
you.
good one. Very well done. What would you call it? Just the Trixie?
No.
What would you call it?
I would call it the heart attack with
All right.
cheese. No, maybe I would call it the
Fleur de
crabby
Tease,
queso.
I don't
The
know.
crabby queso.
All right, that's cool. That's a good one, actually. I
Oh,
like
then we
that.
do queso instead of fondue. That makes more sense. I love it. All right, done. Check. Add some
Queso
spice.
is just Hispanic fondue. That's
It is, but
Yeah.
it's like a little spicier. I think we can make it spicier.
probably, yeah.
Yeah,
I
instead
guess
of a
so.
brie base, we could do
I've
like a
only had
spicy
fondue once, twice maybe. I don't know. It's cheese. It's melted cheese, right?
It's it's basically a lot of melted cheese. Well, and you can pick what type of cheese you want to put in it. So,
Can you put queso in it?
I mean, I don't see why not. It's
Queso
your
means
world.
cheese, right?
Queso does mean
Queso means
cheese.
cheese.
No, but all right, when I do fondue on my own, though, I like to put blue cheese, which makes it really stinky and gross. So a lot of people don't like that.
All right.
But I like it.
That's cool. Well, Trixie Minx, thank you so much. Where can people follow and find out about things about you,
Oh
what you're
my
doing and your
gosh.
goings on?
Thank you for asking. TrixieMinx.com, TrixieMinx. I'm sure you'll put like a little thing on the bottom.
Nick
being
will
like,
put that
"Look at
URL up here on the
that."
screen.
That is the link to all my shows and all my social medias. But if you would love to follow me on Instagram, a lot of people follow me there. That's Trixie Nola, TrixieNola. And that has a lot more sort of like comedy behind the scenes content than
You
my
were doing near daily posts of funny videos for,
a while.
Yeah.
And then we didn't touch on that. I lost my mind at one point during the pandemic. I had a breakdown. I don't know if I'm supposed to like own up to that or just ignore it and
That's
pretend
okay.
everything's fine.
Everyone had their own little thing.
Yeah, it really sucked. So, yeah. But now I'm doing more comedy videos, completely stable. Look at me go. Yay, adulthood. And I can't wait to get on this stage soon, hopefully.
No, hopefully very soon. And we might plan this to try and be posted the same week that
I love
possibly
it.
big announcements for Trixie Minx and Trixie Minx Productions. Like I said before, no one leaves empty-handed. You are the recipient of a certificate
Oh my
suitable for
gosh.
framing. If you wouldn't mind reading that, here's a folder so you don't lose it.
Oh, thank
Go ahead and read that.
Certificate suitable for framing for participation in the All Right broadcast. We hereby certify that you, Trixie Minx, that's me, are officially awesome for being interviewed on this day, April 28th, 2021, for absolutely no... What? For I need to get a lawyer, for absolutely no monetary compensation whatsoever, period. Congratulations and you're welcome. Seal of seriousness, and there are bananas. You will soon be hearing from my lawyer. I
That's
very much
okay.
appreciate
That's
the
okay.
certificate.
We'll put him in touch with our lawyer for the All Right broadcast.
Oh, I'm
that
so
doesn't exist.
excited. I
Seriously.
don't have a lawyer. Can I just use yours?
Yeah, that's totally.
That's
We'll
awesome.
call him up and he'll be like, "Hey, no problem. I'm on it." He's expensive, just so you know.
But you guys are going to pay for
Well,
it
it's
because
guaranteed.
in the suit.
We're all
yeah.
guaranteed to win.
Oh,
basically.
fabulous.
So there's that. Trixie Minx, again, Nick, put all of her URLs, Instagram handles, and everything else on the screen. You've been so generous with your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like I could stay here all night, and I probably would. But,
No rush, no rush. It's still
feel
actually
good.
fairly early, I think.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
How long
it's
did I
not too
take?
bad.
I feel like I've talked forever.
Oh no, not too bad. Not too
Not
bad.
too bad?
Yeah, over an hour, less than 2.
Okay,
Don't worry.
all right, feel good.
Let me do the wrap up real quick. Thank you so much to Ace Ward over here. And I forgot to ask Ace if he had any questions. Apparently, him and your old man are old friends.
Yes.
Sorry,
You have to
Ace, we
specialize
ran out
old
of
man
time,
me-
so you don't get to tell a story.
Wait, old man means my
Oh,
dad.
no,
though.
but I got the meaning of Trixie here.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we did. What is the meaning of
I
Trixie?
couldn't get back into the conversation.
Sorry.
Trixie literally means she who brings happiness.
Oh, that is awesome.
Gosh.
That's
How
perfect.
about that? Yeah.
Thank you so
And,
much.
and
Ace.
it's,
you, like-
and it's a nickname for Beatrix, Beatrice, or Patricia.
I'm gonna need to screenshot that and text that to me.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
amazing.
Ace is all over it. Thank you so much, Ace. Tanner Logan upstairs running the cameras. Nick Logan for doing the editing. We do greatly miss the great Pete Jones, who Ace has been nice enough to fill in for. And we might have to have 2 sound guys when he comes back into town. That'll be something. We might add a bigger lighting element.
We'll have somebody with like just one of
program.
those mics, like
Yeah,
just
just
holding the
stand over here and like drop it every once in a while, for sure. And thank you so much to Tipatinas for letting us use the space. Thank you to Nugs.net for letting us use your equipment. I hope you enjoyed this on Tipatinas.tv. Remember, if you would like a free sticker from us, write me an actual letter. The All Right broadcast, care of Tipatinas, 501 Napoleon Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70115. Send me an actual letter, and I will send you an actual letter back with a sticker inside. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Trixie Minx.
Mwah, mwah.
It was fun, right?
That was super fun.
I know.